So our next step is going to be to create a game over scene. So the way we're going to do that is let's start by creating a new game object and let's make it a 3D text type. And so let's call it game over text. And let's go ahead and take a look. So if you look at the text mesh, just make sure you have it saying game over. And let's also create a quad. And the quad is actually going to be the restart button once you see the game over text. So let's go ahead and position it so that we can see it. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to change the scale of the object. So let's go ahead and look at our XYZ scale and let's change it to 26, 9, and 9.2, or 26, 9.2, 9.2, just so that we can see it. And once we've done that, let's go into our materials folder and add in that edge material to the button. Let's go ahead and add some more text, and let's call this one restart, just so the user knows that they're actually going to be restarting here. And the next thing we're going to, just make sure we change the text mesh to restart as well. Go ahead and change the character size just so that it's easier to see to 5. And actually there we go. So let's move it. We're going to need to massage the position of it as well. Let's move it over to the middle. And let's make sure, so let's actually add the text as a child of the button so that we can move them around together. And once we've done that, let's position it over the game over text so that the user has an easy visual way of actually seeing what they're supposed to be doing. And let's also add the game over text as a child as well. And now we can move the entire game over scene with just one actual transform. So let's go ahead and open up our player.cs script. And inside of this, the only thing we're really going to need to do is we're going to create a reference to our restart button. And that's obviously going to be the actual button that we just made ourselves. And next, what we're going to be doing is we're going to, in our start function, we're actually going to do another GameObject.find. And so since we called it restart button, so this is where you want to make sure that you actually call the restart button something similar to what we said, because otherwise it will not find the actual button in your project. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to say restart button dot set active false. And so what this is going to do is on start, we're not going to make the game over scene that we just made, the game over text and button active, because we only want to show that when the player's actually lost, obviously. So the way we're going to do that is you can see if we have a collision with an asteroid, then we'll set the restart button to true and the player will know that they've actually lost the game. So the last thing we're going to need to do is create a new C# script, which we're going to call a restart button. And so this is going to govern the logic that goes along with the actual restart of the game. So before we actually start this, let's go back to our player.cs and let's actually change the restart button, transform.findChild, restart button.gameObject. And let's build that and make sure that works. Okay. So now that we have no errors in our console, let's go back to monodevelop and let's take a look at our restart button script that we just started. And let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a reference to our GVR main, and this would obviously be the actual camera itself. So we're going to need to know where that is at all time. That way we can actually display the actual button at the correct place. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're also going to want to create another transform for our head transform. And so here we've just done comma-separated variable declarations, which is totally acceptable by Unity. I know we haven't seen that before, but it's nothing to be afraid of. So in our start function, we actually want to find GVR main using GameObject.find, and then we're going to get the transform value of that GameObject to save it into the variable that we just declared up above. And we're actually going to do a pretty similar thing. We're going to go for our head transform. we're going to do GVR main transform, which we just got, dot find child, and then search for the head. So that's pretty self-explanatory there. Now if we go to our update function, we have a few things that we want to do, and basically it's pretty similar to the code that we had here in our player.cs. So let's go ahead and take those first two lines of the update and let's paste them in here. And the reason we're going to do that is because we do want that head transform dot forward on the X and Z. And what we're going to do with that is we're actually going to create an array from the head transform dot position, comma, like forward, basically, so the forward direction. And we're going to use that to actually change the position of the restart button to that vector 30 lengths forward, basically, is the idea. And let's just make sure also that the transform.rotation, we're also going to change that to be the forward quaternion.look on the forward direction as well, just so that the player can actually see the restart button. So yes, that would be the position, ready.get point. Yes, I believe we're going to go with 30. Yeah, let's do 30. And then here we're going to have the rotation. And so basically, this script is pretty lightweight, actually. It's just, we're just using the transforms of the head and the camera to be able to orient the restart button correctly when it needs to be shown. And so the update function will basically ensure that the actual, even if the player turns their head, they're still actually going to be able to see the restart button rather than it being constant in one area of the screen, which might be bad. So the last thing we're going to do on this script is we're going to go to void on enable, which is called anytime the actual game object is enabled, and we're going to copy and paste those two lines just to make sure that they're there. And let's save that out and add that script to the restart button, and let's hit play. So here you can see that the actual, the restart is tracking with our head. Does look like we got a null reference exception, but let's take a look and see what it is that we have. So yeah, it looks like we got to change that to GameObject.find rather than transform.find there. And yeah, it doesn't look like we need that .GameObject. Sorry about that. So yeah, let's play that again and let's see what happens. Here we go. So now if we get hit by an asteroid, there it is. We're going to see that restart and we're going to see that game over. And it's going to track as well from left to right, but not up and down, which is fine. And of course, the reason for that is because we set the Y position to 0 with that 0F in the middle there. So the last thing we want to do here is we actually want to implement iGVR gaze responder into our restart button script. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to be able to know when the player is looking at the actual button so that we can take an action there. So let's copy and paste the code for onGaze enter, onGaze exit, and onGaze trigger. And this time on onGaze trigger, what we're going to do is we're going to change the position of the GVR main transform to vector 3.0. So we're going to zero that out at 0, 0, 0, and we're going to set the game object to inactive. So set active false is the same way of doing that. And let's save that and play it. And so now you can see if we do this, we're going to get hit by this asteroid over here. Hopefully, there it is. And if we stay on restart, looks like actually we forgot to add the event system. So let's add that, the event trigger, and let's do the pointer enter, pointer exit, and pointer down. And pointer click, sorry. And let's make sure we drag in the restart button to all three of those. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can access the function on restart button that we need to map it to, which in this case is the onGaze enter, onGaze exit, and onGaze trigger. So once we've done that, let's save the scene, hit play, and this time, if we hover over restart, there it is. So we've backed out to 0, 0, 0, and the game's restarted. But you can see that no other asteroids are spawning, and that's obviously a problem. So let's go to our asteroid spawner, and let's go ahead and add a few things here. So we're going to add a script called initial asteroids that we can call anytime we restart the game to actually spawn all the asteroids from the start. So let's go ahead and copy and paste that start stuff, and let's just call initial asteroids on start. And what this enables us to do is it means that when we restart, we can just do we can get a callback to initial asteroids, which makes things a lot easier. So let's create a reference to the Asteroid Spawner script, and once we do that, we're just gonna do GameObject.find to actually get the reference to this. And basically, the next step we're going to do is when we actually set the actual restart button to inactive, we're going to make sure that we also do the asteroid spawner dot initial asteroids, basically. And that's going to make sure that we actually spawn more asteroids at the start. So let's do that, and if we save that all out and go back to our Unity game, let's play it and let's see if that functions the way we want it to. Yep, there we go. Awesome, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments or anything else, let us know and we'll be sure to respond.